In one of the shortest, yet most emotionally striking chapters of the book of Adam and Eve, we witness a scene that echoes through time, a moment that changes everything. Just 5 sentences. That's all it takes to convey the raw weight of loss, of banishment, of divine separation. Adam and Eve, newly exiled from Eden, step out into a world they've never known. A world cold, barren, cursed. A world that stretches endlessly in every direction, with nothing but hard rock and sand. Gone are the trees that whispered with divine presence. Gone are the waters that shimmered like crystal, and the songs of paradise that once lulled them to peace. Now there is silence, and dirt, and death in the air. God had made it so. Adam's betrayal would not go unpunished, and the earth would resist him. Thorns, thistles, toil. This was not a home. It was a sentence. Yet, it wasn't just the curse of the ground. There was no warmth, no comfort, no light of grace. This was a fall, not just from Eden, but from divinity itself. Chapter 2 of this ancient text brings us closer than ever before to Adam and Eve's breaking point. Their tears, their fear, their unfiltered grief. When our father Adam and Eve went out of the garden, they walked the ground on their feet, not knowing they were walking. Let that sink in. Not knowing they were walking. It's as if the weight of their sorrow pulled them into a daze, a fog of confusion so thick that even movement became meaningless. Compare this to Genesis. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the garden cherubim, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. In the Genesis account, it is God's actions that dominate. The cherubim, the divine guardian, stand sentinel, sword blazing, barring all from paradise. The focus is law, order, justice, not the heartbreak. But here, in the book of Adam and Eve, we see something else. Something painfully human. Terror, confusion. Adam and Eve, once cradled in Eden, are now infants in a wild, merciless world. They don't even understand what it means to walk on hard ground. Their tender feet, accustomed to heavenly grass, now strike sharp rock and shifting sand. The text says they walked the ground on their feet. And you might ask, how else would they walk? But that's the point. This isn't just a walk. It's a confrontation with reality. This isn't just a new place. It's a new existence. One full of suffering, full of loss, full of death. The contrast is brutal. Paradise had been lush, warm, full of divine light. But here it is gray, lifeless, hostile. They fall to the ground, as if dead. Yes, dead. Such is the horror, such is the fear, such is the grief of being cut off from the only home they ever knew. And worse still, they don't know where they're going. God has given no direction, no map, no words, just silence. Some have likened this exile to birth itself, like a child forced from the womb. Adam and Eve were thrust from safety, from warmth, into a world they do not understand. And though they appear as adults, they are, in every way, infants, crying, confused, abandoned. They don't know they need water. They don't know they can die. They don't yet realize what it means to be mortal, to suffer, to hunger, to fear. What we see here is not just punishment. It's trauma, the death of innocence, the birth of humanity. And when they came to the opening of the gate of the garden and saw the broad earth spread before them, covered with stones large and small, and with sand, they feared and trembled, and fell on their faces from the fear that came over them, and they were as dead. This is what it meant to fall. A key theological element introduced in the book of Adam and Eve is the idea that our first parents originally possessed a bright nature. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's more than just a poetic expression. It's a profound suggestion that Adam and Eve were not simply human, not in the way we understand humanity now. Before the fall, They existed in a more exalted, almost angelic state. And that, perhaps, explains the sheer horror and mortification they felt when cast out of the garden. It wasn't just a change of scenery. It was a change of nature. The passage tells us, when they were in the garden, they were filled with the grace of a bright nature, and they had not hearts turned toward earthly things. What a powerful statement. This concept, this glorious state of being, is completely absent in Genesis. There, Adam is shaped from the dust. He breathes. He becomes a living soul. He is physical from the very start. But in the book of Adam and Eve, the fall is far more than moral failure. It's degradation, from the spiritual to the carnal, from divine light to human limitation. And that's why the fear they felt upon seeing the vast, dry, stone-covered earth was not just fear of a new land. It was existential terror. They fell on their faces, trembled. The text says they were as dead. That's how drastic the shift was. The title of the chapter suggests they fainted. But honestly, can we blame them? If you were once light itself, and suddenly thrown into a world of cold shadow, wouldn't you collapse? Now, another major difference between Genesis and this apocryphal account lies in God's response. In Genesis, we see a God who clothes Adam and Eve with coats of skin, a small but powerful gesture. It shows mercy, yes. But ultimately, Genesis presents God as a stern judge. Justice is swift. Paradise is lost. And humanity must now fend for itself. But in the book of Adam and Eve, the portrayal of God is so much more intimate. The text tells us, scroll, God had pity on them. And when he saw them fallen before the gate of the garden, he sent his word to our father Adam and Eve and raised them from their fallen state. Let that sink in. He sent his word. This isn't just metaphor. In Christian theology, the word, logos, is Christ. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1 verse 1. So here, buried in this ancient, non-canonical text, we find what feels like a proto-Christian moment, a foreshadowing of divine compassion, not just punishment, of redemption, not just exile. God sees their pain, and he responds. He doesn't leave them in the dust. He raises them. This is not the cold and distant deity many picture in the early pages of the Bible. This is not a God who slams the gates and turns his back. This is a parent. A hurt one, yes, but a parent who still comes running when his children fall. And that idea, that contrast, is what makes the book of Adam and Eve so powerful. It's true. God was furious. Why else would he banish them? But he couldn't stay away. And as the story continues in later chapters, we see that God keeps watching, keeps listening, keeps hoping, and maybe, just maybe, keeps loving. If this deeper, more emotional version of the Adam and Eve story moved you today, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into ancient texts, lost gospels, and hidden meanings. Until next time, stay curious, stay thoughtful, and remember, the fall of man might just be the beginning of something greater.